At least 7 people said to be under active consideration by the president after Bolton's abrupt departure from the White House. Here is the former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, who also served as President Bush's national security advisor in the West Wing.
John has tremendous intellect. He cares deeply about this country and the role of the United States abroad. And I'm sure he did his best to give the president his unvarnished advice, which is what you're supposed to do as national security advisor. But in the final analysis, if the national security advisor and the president are not on the same page, it's not the president who's going to go. And I'm sure that John understands that.
With a brand new hour, we start from the White House, North Lawn, and John Roberts there today. John, good morning.
Bill, good morning to you. With John Bolton now officially out, and we will likely hear more in the days and weeks ahead about the ouster and how it went down. The attention now turns toward who comes next and what that person's foreign policy and national security philosophy will be. 2 of the leading candidates that I am told of at the moment, both of them actually sort of come from the State Department. One is Brian Hook. He is the U.S. Special Representative for Iran and a policy advisor to Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. He was brought in under Tillerson, but has become a trusted advisor to Pompeo. He is described as, quote, a real policy wonk, and is said to have a very good relationship with Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law here at the White House, which Bolton, by the way, did not have. The other leading candidate is Stephen Biegun. He is the U.S. representative for North Korea, the chief negotiator with the Kim regime. He was appointed by Pompeo after the Singapore meeting in 2018 and laid all of the groundwork for the Hanoi summit. He recently turned down the job of ambassador to Russia so that he could keep focusing on North Korea. He prefers more of a carrot than a stick approach to North Korea to try to bring them down the road of denuclearization, and found himself, because of that, frequently at odds with Bolton. Now, both of these men are very close with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. And as Pompeo really counts as the president's most trusted advisor on foreign policy and national security, you can bet that Pompeo is going to have a big say in who comes next. Also on the radar screen today here at the White House, the growing problem of homelessness in America. The White House confirmed that it does have a team on the ground in California, which is looking into the problem to try to come up with policy proposals for how to deal with it. The office of L.A. Mayor Eric Garcetti confirmed that his staff took the administration officials on a tour of the Unified Homelessness Response Center, a public housing complex, and prefabricated homes in the Los Angeles area to see how the city of Los Angeles is responding to the growing crisis there. President Trump has directed his team to develop a range of policy options to deal with the problem, which the president says is caused by skyrocketing real estate prices, so that poor people can't buy into the housing market, and a failure to come up with alternatives. At a campaign rally in Ohio on August the 1st, the president was highly critical of California's response. Listen here.
Nearly half of all the homeless people living in the streets in America happen to live in the state of California. What they are doing to our beautiful California is a disgrace to our country. It's a shame. The world is looking at it. Look at Los Angeles with the tents and the horrible, horrible, disgusting conditions. Look at San Francisco. Look at some of your other cities.
It's said that this fact-finding team that's on the ground in California from the administration is just in the, quote, learning phase right now. So, Bill, it will likely be some time before they come up with policy proposals, but something else that the Trump administration is looking into this morning.
Good deal. Thank you, John. Nice to see you. John Roberts, a new day at the White House there. Thank you, sir.